I work for Nevco Scoreboards. I cover Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. So I'm going to start everything off here as if you were taking this out of the closet and starting a new game from scratch. So when we open up the case, you've got your controller box in here. First thing you're going to want to do is plug it into a power cord, which I conveniently tangled with the other one. There we go. So you can plug it into any outlet, it doesn't matter. This is a wireless setup that you have. So all you need to do is get power to your controller here and turn it on. And when you do, it automatically connects to the scoreboard. So assuming that nobody turned a breaker off anywhere or anything like that, there's no actual switch to the scoreboards like you see in some of the older setups. It's turned on directly from here. So when I turn this on, you'll see that it beeps and it lights up. And it's always going to leave off wherever the last person turned the controller off from. So in this situation, I was put some numbers up and everything, and this is typically what will happen. You'll turn it on, and wherever the last game ended, people just go, okay, time to go home. They turn the controller off, and they leave it, and you have the final score from the last game. So the first thing you want to do is always clear it out and start from scratch. So once I plug this in the back here, it lights up. Again, I'm always going to be where I left off. And if I press this right here, where it says press twice for new sport, if I just press it once, it's going to say basketball both. What that means is that I am playing basketball and I'm running both scoreboards at the same time. If I keep hitting this button, it does other sports too, volleyball, wrestling, and if I go all the way back around, it'll give me basketball A, so I can just run one scoreboard. Basketball B is the other scoreboard. So if you ever wanted to run two games at a time, you would need to have a separate controller, or if you wanted to split the gym, you had a team practicing in here and they're only going to use one side and you're going to put the divider curtain. You can just run one scoreboard at a time, close the other half of the gym, and only be showing stuff on one scoreboard. For the sake of the training, I'm just going to run it with both scoreboards because that's probably 95% of the time that's what you're going to be doing. So if I go back to where it says basketball both, that's where I'm going to want to be. So basketball, both scoreboards. I hit yes, and hear a short beep. Everything's going to go blank. Go blank. Okay. When it comes back up, this is kind of your default here. There's the other one not coming up. There we go. So we have both up now. All right. So first thing you usually do when you turn the scoreboard on is you set the time. So whether that's the pregame time or we just do it for how much time you're playing in a quarter or period. I'm going to put a bunch of time up here just so we can run it for the sake of the training. So if you hit the set button, which is right here, and then you hit the time, I'm just going to put in 30 minutes. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk for 30 minutes. 0, 0, and I hit yes. And 30 minutes goes up on each side. All right? So you can run the time one of two ways. You can hit time on here, and time off, time on, time off. Or you have these handheld switches which we provide. And you can see on each side of the controller, there's a port on each side. It's identical, so sometimes it's just a matter if you're a righty or a lefty. You don't need to use this, but a lot of people find it to be a little bit more handy to use this to start and stop the time. And when I plug this in, now I'm running it with the handheld switch. There's also a button here for the horn. I'm about to hit the horn, just warning everybody. So there's your horn. You can also do the horn manually up there. So that's if you need to get the official's attention, there's a sub coming in, something like that, you can use the manual horn. Scoreboard's also programmed, so when it goes down to 0, the horn will go off as well. All right, so we're starting the game, we're running the time. One thing I'll just always point out with these switches, let's just say in the middle of the game, somebody breaks the switch, right? They yank it out, they snap the cord, and now we don't have a switch anymore. But I was already running it, and it happened in the middle of the game. So the scoreboard still thinks that this is plugged in because we started the game like that. So, and this goes for even if I had time, score, everything up there. If I turn the controller off, everything will go blank like we did before. And then I turn it back on. You're never going to lose any data that you have up there if you turn this on and off. So it's just going to reset everything. Now I'm right back to where the time was. If I had a score up there, the score would still be there. So that goes for also if somebody's walking along and they trip over the cord comes flying out of the wall, and this turns off, you're going to lose a signal to scoreboard. Scoreboards will turn off. Turn it back on. Everything will be right where you left off. Now the time won't still be running exactly in sync. You'll have to catch that up, but your scores will be there and everything. All right, so I'm just going to use the time on and time off here so I'm not holding multiple things. So our time's running and we start scoring some points in the game here. So all we do when points are scored is we hit home or guest first, depending on who scores. So let's say the home team makes a layup, I hit home score and 2 goes up each time. I don't have to hit enter or anything like that. Home team makes a free throw, home, 1. Make another one, home, 1, so on and so forth. Same thing with the guest. Guest, 2, guest, 1. All right, so that every time I do that, I'm just adding to the score. So these 5 buttons right here are going to get used the majority of the time. 1, 2, or 3, because that's the only amount of points you can score on each play. Now, let's say we mess up. So you think a 3-pointer goes in for the home team. So you go home score 3, and the score is 9-3. Then the ref runs by and goes, his foot was on the line as a 2-pointer. Well, now what? So what we do is the same thing I did when I set the time, is I hit the set button first, I go over to home score, and then I just make it 8. All right, so that's kind of your edit button when you make a mistake. Other than that, when you're doing the score, all you're doing is home or guest first, and then 1, 2, or 3, depending on how many points were scored. And if you really mess up, you can always just start over. And if I put the points on the wrong side, I should have put 2 points on the guest side. I can do set, guest score, and 2 to adjust it there and make the score 2. All right. So that's time, that's score. The period is right in the middle there as well. If I hit the period button, I just change it to 2, period 3, period 4, so on and so forth. There's also a possession arrow that toggles back and forth. I'm just hitting this possession arrow here, and you can see on both scoreboards, it's going back and forth between the home and the guest. All right, so that's kind of the top half of the board. And then if we go down to the bottom part of the board is where your player fouls are. So you can see the panel say player fouls. So the middle is there is your team fouls, and then the ones on the bottom left and right corners are your player fouls. So let's say number 23 on the home team makes a foul. So right here you can see it says home. This whole column is home, and it's the same color as over here, green. This whole column is guests. So just make sure you're putting it on the right side. And I hit player fouls. It'll ask you what number. I'll put in number 23, and they got 1 foul. So as you can see there, I put a team foul on the bottom left corner for 1, and then I put the last player to commit a foul in the middle there. And that's regardless if it's the home or the guest side. So let's say number 22 on the guest team makes a foul. So I'd go player fouls, number 22, and then I put 1. All right? And you can manually do those team fouls as well. So let's say you're playing a game and they don't want to keep track of the player fouls there, but they just want to put team fouls in. So you can just do team fouls, 1, team fouls, 1. And if I want to change it, if I make a mistake, same thing I did with the score. I just go set, team fouls, and they say it should be 2 team fouls. So I just did set, team fouls, and 2. Okay? And I can do the same thing with the player fouls if I needed to adjust a player foul. All right. And then also you'll have, if you get to a certain amount of team fouls, it'll also give you a bonus on the top. So I can do that manually as well. So depending on what rules your middle school plays, they have single bonus, double bonus. I'm not sure what they play for middle school in Rhode Island, but I can do that manually as well if they're doing 1-and-1 or just 2 shots. All I'm doing is hitting bonus on each side, toggles on and off. All right. Pretty good so far. Any questions? All right. A couple other things on here real quick. If you ever did have to add shot clocks to the system, this is already programmed for shot clocks, so you can add shot clocks if they ever had that at the middle school level. What else did I not go over? There's a timeout timer. If you ever wanted to put timeouts up on the scoreboard, you can. There's also something called a sub horn. So what I do is if I'm sitting here at the scorer's table and number 12 comes in and checks in, says I'm going in, and I don't want to forget that player is subbing in, I hit sub horn. Now automatically if I stop the clock, the horn's going to go off. So the horn's about to go off here. So it's good if you have somebody sitting at the scorer's table who always forgets to buzz the subs in. You just hit that button and the S goes on. All right. We can also put the time of day up there if we want as well. I probably wouldn't use it since you guys have a clock right next to each scoreboard, but if you ever did want to put the time of day up, you can display that as well. And then I'm just go through options real quick just in case. There's a brightness level. If you guys think it's too bright in here, you can dim it down. So all I'm doing is hitting the S button and it's going higher or lower. We'll leave it at high. I think that looks pretty good. Then the other thing that I would just show you real quick is that if I keep going through here, the main time, I can turn the horn off so that if you ever wanted to run this during your PE classes in the middle of the day, but you didn't want the horn going off and everybody running in saying, why is there a horn going off? You can turn that off just by hitting this button here, and the asterisk goes off. And then when the scoreboard gets to 0, you won't hear a horn. So some people ask for that, but we're just going to leave it on for now as the default. All right, any questions? No? All right, so I put my card in here. There's also the number for our service department as well if you just have a general question. My card's in there with my email and my cell phone number. If anybody else is using the scoreboard on the weekends or things like that, that way they can get in touch with me, they can call me, text, email, anything's is fine. And then I would just add that if you guys have other teams that are going to be in here using the gym and you want them to have their own controller, we can sell additional controllers to other outside programs if they're renting the gym. I don't know if that's going to come up at all. And we program it in the factory. Since this is all wireless, we can just duplicate this exact controller and we can ship it out so it's plug and play, ready to go for them. So again, they can just reach out to me on by email and I can send that over to them. Good? Questions? All right.